Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all doing great and keeping safe. Today I'm delighted to host none other than Stephen Cognetta for my second episode of the TTL series, which is the Talk to Leader series. Stephen has co-founded Exponent and Hack Mental Wealth. He has attended Stanford and Princeton universities and also worked at Google. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us here today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be on the show, and it's so nice to be on each other's YouTube channels.
Yes. So while he has mentioned, I also have a video on his channel. I'll link that below. We did a mock interview on Exponent, and you might find that helpful as well. Stephen, let's start with the most basic question of what motivated you to get into the world of software engineering and products and basically everything tech at that time.
Yeah, so I remember for my story, I was a chemical engineering student in college when I went to college for 2 years, 2 out of the 4 years of my university education. And I
Oh,
remember just being really confused and not sure what I wanted to do. And I had a lot of like stress and anxiety about it because I was, oh my gosh, like what do I do in the world? Um, how do I see myself fitting in? And I remember going to a hackathon, a couple hackathons with my roommate at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so scary. I'm not sure if I'm going to fit in. I'm not sure if I'm going to know anything. But really, like after doing that, and we kind of created this little cute app and it won some, one of these prizes at the hackathon.
wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is actually really fun. And technology is not just about the coding, which is what I thought before, but it's also
Right.
about innovation and creating new things and working with people. And I felt like that was so cool and so inspiring that I eventually switched in and became a product manager and eventually started Exponent.
Right. That's actually quite a relatable story. Even I was, I was into engineering, but even then I did not know what I really want to do after I graduate. So I think with the passage of time and when you take up new projects, when you get involved in certain things, only then can you make a choice that this is what I want to do for a long term. Trial and error is the way to go. uh,
Totally.
so then that brings me to my next question, which is what motivated you to found your own startup and not continue working with companies?
Yeah. So, I mean, I loved I worked at Google before this and I loved my time there. It was an awesome experience for
I'm
me and I
sure.
would totally recommend it. And I, at the time, had just wanted to explore some other ideas and options that I was kind of considering. And I had always been really passionate about coaching. I had always really liked that. I used to actually volunteer at a suicide hotline where I would answer calls for
Wow.
people who are not feeling well. And so, there's some aspect of coaching there, or of helping people or listening, active listening, and coaching and helping people with interviews is often about active listening. A lot of
Yeah.
people have anxiety or imposter syndrome or are very concerned about how their interview is going to go
Yeah.
or how they're going to show up. Sometimes I talk about it. It's like dating. You get rejected all the time. You have to figure out who you are and who you want to be with, and it's really hard.
True.
And so, yeah, I had been really interested in this problem space. So I took time off to kind of explore a bunch of ideas and did a lot of side projects. But one of the bigger side projects that came out of it was Exponent, which at first was focused on product management, and now we do sort of product management, technical program management, product marketing management, software engineering, and a bunch more. And it's been a really cool journey to grow that company.
Sure. I myself have been following it since quite a few years now, and I've seen how it has grown and how you have expanded it to not just stay restricted to product management, but different verticals. And I'm sure a lot more things are coming up on that space. So, in this course of time, and while you were growing and building these startup, and you also have another startup, as I said, Hack Mental Wealth. So, what were the challenges that you faced, and what learnings have you kept with you to help you go through the future challenges that come up?
Yeah. So the for me, I think that it's start growing startups is hard.
Yes.
Building companies is hard, and part of the reason it's hard is because you have to take a risk on yourself. You have to kind of say, hey, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to do this thing that I think I can do well. And there's a huge risk of failure. And I will be honest, like I've failed so many times. There's so many of these projects that I've done. I made a T-shirt that I thought was going to be a really cool idea and no one bought it. Or I made like a little product that I thought people were going to buy and no one bought it. And I think it was just, all that time of getting numb to the failure and also just finding the joy in the journey and the process of it was part of what was really inspiring for me throughout that process of growing those companies. But it was definitely a challenging experience. And there's a lot of like aspects to it, but I would say the thing that has helped me the most is really bias to action. And so when it comes down to it, if you have an idea or if you're thinking about something, just do something, like what can you do in this next hour that will further that idea or that will test that idea, even if it's so, grandiose idea that you never could do or something like that. There's always something you can do in that moment where you can further that idea or get that action going.
Very, very essential points, I feel, because most of the, I would say, business ideas which just get tanked are because of these two main reasons. One is either a small pilot hasn't worked out, or there's failure, or execution has not been consistent. And I guess I have also experienced that myself, even though I haven't found businesses as such, but doing my own initiatives, there's literally no one to ask you, right? What are your targets? How have you met them? Have you not met them? So you have to consistently ask yourself that, and the answer to that would only come when you have action in your stride and you have some actionables that you've achieved. So very essential points. Right. So, Stephen, how have you managed prioritizing milestones for your businesses? Because I'm sure, again, since you are the owner of it, you have to first decide the milestones, which in itself is a very challenging process. But then, how do you prioritize which ones are the important ones and which ones should happen maybe later in time?
Totally. I mean, as a fellow product manager, you know that prioritization is super, super important, both for product management, but just also for building companies in general. So I would say the milestones, picking the milestones, while I may be the owner or co-founder of Exponent, we make decisions based on our users. And I think that's a table stakes for any product manager or anyone growing a company. But while I may have some ideas or thoughts, really it's just continued conversations with our users. Calling them, talking to them, seeing their activity in our. We have an exclusive Slack channel for our members, so it's a great way to get insights into what they're thinking about or how they're thinking about using our product. And a lot of our product features, a lot of the things we've developed, like our interview question database with free interview questions that we source, or our peer-to-peer mock interview platform, like every day you can log in and get matched with a practice partner. Those tools were actually things that came out of organic activity in the Slack channel and things that people were already doing in our community, which is really, really cool. And I think staying attuned to that and having that sense for what users are doing and how you can build products to serve them is sort of how we come up with and prioritize a lot of these ideas. But in terms of milestone setting for us, we have quarterly goals. We check in. We also do quarterly feedback as well, and check in. What did we do well? What did we not do well? And what would we like to accomplish? But ultimately, when we think about how to prioritize, it's always based on what do the users want, or what would the users benefit from most significantly.
Sure, that's speaking like a true product manager, but very, very important point. Shifting gears a bit, right? Now, there are many job aspirants, and there is a lot of prep material out there. There's a sea of content sprouting up. So, how does one assess the credibility of this, or how does one pick and choose what is right for their preparation?
Yeah. So there's so many resources out there.
Yeah,
And I would, it's easy for me to say like, oh, just use Exponent, tryExponent.com. It's a great
yeah,
resource, and that's a great opportunity, which I do think it is. But what I would really think about for every single person who's looking at all these resources and knowing which ones to go to
yeah.
is everyone learns differently. And there's two main different types of learning that I think are very effective for people depending on how you learn best.
Hmm.
One is more didactic. And what I mean by that is like courses or lectures or books, things that teach you throughout that whole process. And another one is more examples or practice based. Like, hey, like, let me just try out these questions. Let me just try out this problem. Or let me see a mock interview and see what that looks like so I can get a sense for it, so I can develop that sense.
Hmm.
And people have different learning styles. I'm more of a practice-based learning person. And personally, I think that that is very effective or an important part of someone's study plan. But some people really like that course or that book or that full comprehensive experience. And so I would reflect first on, okay, who am I as a user and what products would serve my needs for best when you think about that space. But of course, I mean, Exponent, for our end, we've developed both courses and also practice material. And so we've tried to target kind of both those use
Yeah.
cases, of both those scenarios of what you might need when you're trying to grow in technology. But I mean, there's also amazing blogs, amazing YouTube channels like yours, Khanjan, and a lot of other people in the space that are worth following on different social media platforms as well.
Right. So, definitely. So, to add to that, I would say that uh, connect with direct links, right? So, let's say if you're eyeing one particular company, um, go and check out the job description, go and check out people who are working there, maybe talk to them, look at their interviews. So, then that would help you assess the requirements that that particular company has. And maybe that will help the job aspirants connect more with that and then decide for themselves what kind of content to choose from. As you said, there is no dearth of material now. So, right now, choosing and selecting the correct material for your benefit and what works for you is more essential than just going through everything. So, great points. Also, Stephen, you have interacted with a lot of professionals across the globe, and that is to the advantage of your businesses. What, according to you, has been the similarity and the differences between the way different people or different professionals approach interviews across the globe?
Yeah, and kind of just to clarify, you're asking for the perspective of a candidate, right? Like how
Yes,
someone
of a
is going
candidate.
through the
Yes.
interview process.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's this whole other side that I do recommend people think about, which is who's your audience or who's interviewing you, and why are they asking these
Sure.
questions too. And so I actually think it's a great segue into the point that I would make, which is the thing that I think is most effective when I see professionals in this space and when they think about interviewing is that they're really thinking about the audience or the person on the other side. And so even when it comes to a resume, like one of the most important things about a resume that people always forget is empathize with who is going to be reading that resume, right?
Right.
And so if someone is reading a resume and it's 5 pages long and it's really hard to read and really confusing and you're tired and you've just read 100 of these other resumes, that resume is not going to stand out and it's not going to have an impact. And so my recommendation always is to empathize with the person that you're interviewing with. Like, what are they interested in getting from me? If they're asking me, what's my favorite product? Are they asking me to just talk about Gmail because it's really good at organizing my emails? Or are they asking me to have an interesting perspective or take or opinion on the space? And I think that's the nuance of what an effective actual interviewee looks like.
Hmm.
Now, that said, other than just empathizing with the interviewer's perspective, I do think there are a variety of approaches. And so I wouldn't want to say there's a one size fits all. There's a lot of personality and style that comes out in interviewing. And my general tip there is that I think a lot of effective interviewees are very authentic. Professionals in the space, they're honest about what they do, they're honest about what they don't do and what they're not as good at. And they're confident about it. And there's, I'm a fast learner, but I don't know that thing or something like that. And I think that can show a lot of strength by just being that authentic self.
So, Stephen, there is this burning question in the market right now. Is it important to do an MBA at all? What is your take on it?
Yeah, common question. So to be upfront, I myself have an MBA, but ironically, I got my MBA after being a product manager, and so I did not need the MBA to get that role. Um, there are definitely advantages to having an MBA in a lot of regards. Your network, your ability to adapt to businesses and know business knowledge, all of that kind of stuff equips you with skill sets to be an effective PM. But my definitive answer on this is that it is not necessary to be a product manager. And if you go to an MBA program thinking that that's the only thing that you need to take you to a PM role, that is absolutely wrong. And so I see a lot of people who go to MBAs, oh, I'm going to become a product manager after this, and it doesn't actually work out, and they're very disappointed. And now they've spent a lot of money on a program.
Yeah.
And so my recommendation personally is, if you're interested in a role, if you're interested in any career transition, you'll have to put in the work. Even if you go to a school, you're still going to have to put in that work to make that transition. So really understand, like, how does an MBA help me? If it does help me, what exactly is it that the MBA will help me do that I wouldn't have been able to do outside of it? And generally, I'd recommend, networking, getting your name out there, like posting in communities and things like that can be really helpful to building your credibility and credentials. But also, I'd recommend, building your skill set. An MBA is great, but it could be more valuable to actually do a coding project or to work on your personal website or something like that, or do a part-time project at your current company where you can work in a product capacity. All of those things are super valid approaches to breaking into product or to getting into product roles, or technology. Does not necessarily have to be an MBA. So I would just think critically for everyone who's watching this, how does the MBA fit into my journey, and what exactly will it be offering me along that way? Else, if that's not a clear value add to you, I would rethink the MBA and just think critically about what is it right now that I'm not doing that I could do to help me get into the role that I want.
Very true. I completely agree with each word that you said. And just to add to that, I also, in fact, did two MBAs and not one. And I did not do any of those MBAs to land one job in one company or reach a certain package. Even that is one of the primary reasons ROI is also debated for. I think whenever you are doing such an expensive course, and not only money wise but the time and effort that you put in, the things that you put on the backseat to do an MBA are also equally big investments. So then in that case, only one company or only one role should not be the deciding factor. As you said, there are a lot of byproducts of doing an MBA, and there are direct benefits of doing an MBA, which, like any other course, is of course the networking and the kind of platform that you get. You surely do get more opportunities when you're at that one level, and for you to capitalize on those opportunities is onto you. And as you said, the skills that you are going to develop, maybe during your MBA or before that or after that, are what are going to help you or arm you with that particular opportunity capitalizing trait. So I guess doing or not doing an MBA is as important as developing skill sets, networking. Some people have this misconception that only MBA will help you network. That's again, in today's day and age, that's not necessary. You can easily go on professional networks and talk to people, just understand. People are more than willing to help. So surely those are some points that I'd like to add to that. That's actually a fresh perspective that I've gotten. Lastly, your personal, let's say, top 5 tips that you would like to give to young professionals who are right now either preparing for jobs, deciding to go and pursue MBA. What would be your top tips?
Yeah. So I think one of my biggest tips is to think of your career journey as a journey, right? Enjoy every step of the way. Getting to a certain role is not going to make you like the happiest person in the world. What is going to matter is that you learned along the way, that you became a person that people respect and looked up to, and you have a lot of experience. And people's careers are very long, and it takes time to get into the roles that you want to get into. And so really just being encouraged that, hey, if you get rejected 5 times for that job, it's okay. Like, it's something that's happened to me too. Like, I've gotten rejected for a lot of jobs as well in my life. And I think it's easy to forget that when people look at people and are like, oh my gosh, like, they got that job. What the heck? Like, I'll never be able to do that. So I think if there's one just message that I would share, is just to be hopeful, to keep it up, and to remember it's a journey. It's part of this big process. And it's not a make it or break it situation. There's so many opportunities out there. There's so many exciting things in technology and beyond, honestly, that I feel like, there's always going to be a great fit for people, and it takes time to find what that looks like. And you got to enjoy it along the way.
Very fair point. And especially right now in the era that we are in, we have so many options at our disposal. We are privileged to just sit at our home and learn everything that is possible to learn in the world. So for sure, just going at it and just keeping consistency and doing what you like should be the goal. And of course, ultimately having like tangible goals is also equally important, but then enjoying the process to reach that is also equally essential. That brings us to the end of this quick chat with you, Stephen. It was a lot of fun. Hope we can do more sessions in future. And for all of you who haven't still checked out Exponent, I'll link the channel below. And I've done a video with Stephen, which you can check out too. Thank you so much, Stephen, for joining. Take care.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.